everybody.
Hey, everyone.
Sorry we're late. I was the one having some technical difficulties, unfortunately. I hear a little bit of an echo, and had to reboot my whole system. So we had to start a few minutes late. So I see a lot of chat. Thank you guys all for being here and joining us. I see Paul in here. I know Richard is here as well. I see him, Tiffany, Sarah, Pame, Nish, Kraus. There's a bunch of you. I see Tina. So thank you all so much for joining us. And if you're watching the replay, because we get replayed quite a bit, then thank you. And hopefully you can make the next show. So I have with me my co-host Julian, who is back and will be here every week until he goes fishing on vacation again. I don't know when. And then my good friends below, both who are very knowledgeable, and I am happy to have both these gentlemen with me. I have George the Antique Nomad and Dominic Primetime Treasure Hunter, and both whom have been on my show before. So welcome back, gentlemen. Thank you for coming on again. So I will go ahead and I'm going to make Dom big. I'll let Dom introduce himself, and then we'll go around minus myself. If you guys don't know me, I am Kat the Nurse Flipper. So if you're not subscribed to me, definitely subscribe. And I'm going to let Dom introduce himself.
All right. Hey, everyone. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Dominic, the Primetime Treasure Hunter. Although many people have written me assuming that I am a construction worker based on what I look like, I, like Kat, am also in the healthcare industry and work full-time as a board-certified neuropsychologist in a hospital, but I have a big passion for reselling all sorts of things, basically anything vintage and collectible. I specialize in comic book and toys, but love ephemera, metal signs, you name it, I pretty much love it. And I have a channel, Primetime Treasure Hunter, that is dedicated to going out and doing all sorts of treasure hunts and what's sold videos and educational videos and how-tos and live shows every Wednesday night, that type of thing. And I also have a Facebook group called the Facebook Reselling Resource Center, which has 26,500 members in it as well. So I'm busy managing both of those things and a bunch of other side hustles on the side as well. But I'm happy to be here with Kat, George, and Julian.
We will give you therapy, Nick.
Yeah.
All right. Here is Dom says okay.
No, yeah,
Right.
I'm gonna need it. I'm gonna need it after the last few days if you've been following my channel.
All right, here is George.
Hello there. I see a lot of familiar faces and names and a few that are new to me. I'm George the Antique Nomad, and that's my moniker because I travel across the country. I buy and sell antiques and vintage. I conduct appraisals. I conduct estate sales. And what else do I do? Oh, there's another part. Well, I wrote a book about a pottery company in California. So yes, I love this business. I've been doing it about 30 years under various guises, and I'll probably do it until they pry the last piece out of my cold dead hands. Do I need to say more?
I thought that was a good way to end it.
That was solid work.
I can't, I'm trying, guys.
Hey, I'm Julian. If you don't know me, also known as the Bearded Thrift Machine. I just want to thank Kat for letting me back on as her co-host, and thank our two guests, Dom and George. They're great people. I actually watch their channels a lot and learn a ton from them. I also have my own YouTube channel that I do the same stuff that they do, you know, haul videos, what sold videos, and stuff like that. So I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Yay. So my internet's going in and out. So if I disappear, hopefully nobody will be stuck on big screen. And yeah. So look, Terry learned how to pack delicate glasses. I don't show how I pack because you guys would yell at me like you yell at me how I handle glassware. So I went today and picked up another auction haul. I spent $700 again, and I went thrifting with Red Cardinal Treasures, Marcia. I don't know if she's in here yet, but I went thrifting with her, and I'm like, you don't have to wrap them. I'll just throw them in my IKEA bag, and they're like cringing at me. I'm like, no, it's okay. They don't believe people.
Half the time they wrap it in that horrible newsprint anyway, so it's not like it's better.
Joe Barcia is in the house. That is Joey Bada Bing, 22's dad. Thank you for coming in, Mr. Joe Barcia. Yeah, see, look, Marcia's telling on me. Okay, Krause House Sift and Thrift has a question for us. How did you all get into reselling?
Well, I could start and answer that one. I always say that if you really technically want to go back, it goes back to when I was taking comic books, like extras that I had and ones that I just didn't want anymore when I was a teenager, and we would go to a place still there. It's called the Englishtown Auction in New Jersey. And my friend and I, we would have one of our parents drive us down there, and we would set up a plastic table and some chairs and just put our box of comic books out and just sit there, enjoy the day, and people would come by and we'd sell some stuff. But it wasn't what you would traditionally consider reselling these days, because we weren't buying it to resell it yet. That's what we were doing. That wasn't our intention. When it really became intentional was when I started going to graduate school and Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale. And on the weekends, there was a place called the Swap Shop that we used to love to go to. And that was right around the time when eBay came out. So this is a few years later. This is like 1999. And so we just started going on the weekend and just started picking up things for a quarter, 50 cents, $1, a couple bucks, and, just getting stuff that we thought was interesting and bring it back and put it up for auction, because eBay was all auction back then. There was no buy it nows or anything like that. And sometimes we made big scores, and sometimes we thought we had something great and realized 100 other people had it listed, and we learned from that. And a lot of the shows started coming out, like Pawn Stars and Antiques Roadshow and all those things. So we started watching that as well, and just started just learning, and just continued to take it off from there. And we did that for about 4 years, just every weekend, just going, and just that's how we learned, just that way. No apps, no way to check comps, nothing like that. But you develop a good eye that way.
Well, for me, I guess it started because I was the marketing assistant for a chain of antique malls right out of college. And we were not allowed to buy and sell as dealers because it would be considered a conflict of interest with our dealers. And eBay didn't exist yet. So I was learning things that I wanted to test my knowledge and go out and see old stuff. So I'd go to garage sales and I'd go to thrift stores and pick just like everyone else. And I started to get some decent stuff, didn't know what to do with it. And a friend of mine had a different store down the street. So I would just be her picker and quietly sell the stuff to her. And then when I decided to become a dealer on my own and went to appraisal school and all that good stuff, then I started reselling in a really serious way and going to auctions and estate sales and buying and selling on a big level. And by then eBay had come along and reselling was really changing. So I had to learn to change along with it. And yeah, it's absolutely. I heard you say, Kat, last night, Vintage Rescue Squad, that I think it was there or somewhere else that you got started, you'd buy box lots and then you had to learn a little about everything in the box. And to me, it's the same concept. You sometimes stretch yourself and you get something you're not familiar with, and that's how you learn. So to me, it was just a way to learn about other things, and then it ended up being my livelihood, and that's been pretty great.
I started only about 2 years ago, and I definitely did it with like YouTube, Instagram, any type of app I could find. And I flipped a teapot and a Goodwill, and I was like, I can scale this and make probably more than I'm making at my regular job. And that's exactly what I did.
And my older brother, who's actually like 20 something years older than me, was a big flea market guy. He was always like, he would buy truckloads of stuff and he had booths at the flea market. So I kind of grew up seeing, like, he was like big time, like my parents used to call him a hustler because he was always looking for like the next great deal. So I grew up around that. And then when I had my son in 1999, I started eBay. I actually had a plant nursery next to me with like these antique roses, and I started selling plants on eBay. And then I kind of got away from it as my older son grew up, but then came back to it several times over the years. I did plants quite a few times. And then when I had Dalton almost 3 years ago, I didn't want to work as much overtime. And I kind of started diving headfirst into eBay, and that's expanded to the other platforms. And like Georgia said, I buy a lot of box lots, so I'm learning all this different stuff. But then I know, like, I just picked up a piano baby that should sell for over $100 for $2 at Goodwill, because I had little piano babies in a tray lot that I bought from an antique auction. So I've just expanded it, and I'm pushing harder and harder, because my goal is in December to go part-time nursing and do reselling full-time, even though I probably already put full-time hours into this. I don't want to lie to anybody, because I'm off 4 days a week. So I put a lot of time, and when work is slow, I am listing at work too. So I probably am already doing it full-time, but you know. Frank Dango, thanks for your help the other night. You are so welcome, guys. I am very available on Instagram and Facebook if you want to reach out to me, or email, and I'm really happy to help. I'm going to give Frank his dolphin, because I know a lot of you love the dolphin. So Frank, here's your dolphin. Super chat. And if you guys have a question, yes, look, Kayla is in the house. That is Julian's girlfriend there, saying teapot for the win. And she resells as well.
Does that dolphin have a name yet?
I don't know. I don't think the dolphin does not have a name.
I think he needs a name.
What are we going to name the dolphin?
I mean, you know, obvious choice is Flipper, but you might want maybe a contest or something to name the dolphin.
Yeah, name the dolphin. Definitely a contest.
Yeah.
Name that dolphin. There are two dolphins. Yes.
I mean, Dominic the dolphin. Dominic the dolphin might be good. I don't know.
Yeah. The whole letter like analogy.
Yeah. Kind of flows off.
Marcia saw firsthand today my ridiculousness. I behaved in the first thrift store, and then we walked into the second one. And they had a giant lot of Stengel pottery. And all of the dish sets were 50% off. And when I say giant, it's over 50 pieces of Stengel pottery, and it was $50. So I'm like, I'll take that. And the poor lady at the thrift store, I'm like, have my hands full, because they don't have carts at this thrift store. She's like, oh, can I take it? I'm like, you could take it up there, come back, and I'll just keep filling your arm. She's like, okay. And she did. She kept coming and taking stuff out of my hands, and I kept picking more stuff up, because that's what I do, even though I had just filled my car from an auction buy, because
We know.
What do you do? So I have her sitting here. She is like so pretty. Check her out. She is on a marble base. She's very pretty. This is one of my auction buys, and I only paid $5 for her. So nice. She is made in India. Made in India. Come on, camera. But yeah, I found some cool stuff. Oh, George, since I have you here, have you ever seen anything like this? These ladies?
Oh, I had an appraisal recently that had something similar, but they weren't exactly the same, so I can't say I have. Any marks?
I couldn't find anything.
Interesting.
No marking. They were $5, and I thought they looked cool, so.
I do too. Yeah, I saw some, and they were from some Caribbean artist, and I think they appraised for like 45 or 50, but they look different than yours a little bit. So I don't know if that's comparable or not.
Yeah, I'll have to search a little bit more and see. Yeah, I made in Italy and made in France. George, do you think that like is a good like generalization for somebody picking, like if they see the made in Italy or made in France, or would you say no?
Oh boy, I think every country has good, better, and best, and so it really depends on the piece, honestly. Although I would say that generally speaking, with housewares, French things and Italian things and Belgian things they seem to be better quality, and there are some people who just want it to say Italy. So yeah, I mean, all other things being equal, it's a good place to start anyway.
Like if it's cheap and says made in Italy and it looks nice, then
get it. Exactly.
Solid rule of thumb.
Question: what reference books do you use to identify maker's marks on items?
Well, I don't have a specific one. I mean, George would definitely know what is considered the Bible to use for that. But I will just give people a general tip is that when you're outsourcing, a lot of times you're sourcing, you'll find that the people you're sourcing from, particularly if you go to estate sales, you'll find that they were antique collectors. And so a lot of them have maker's marks guides on the bookshelves. And so whenever I would find those, I would just pick them off and, pick them up for, $1 or less. And I just have a big shelf just stored with maker marks reference guides for furniture, for bottles, for, glass and all sorts of things. So, again, some of them could be older, but, I don't even mind if they're older and outdated because those might have things that a modern version may not necessarily have. Like, something more obscure might be in one of those things. So, yeah, I would suggest picking those things up if you could find them, but rely on George for what the over there for what the best one is.
Well, I don't think there is a best one. I actually think your advice is really solid because the answer depends on what you're collecting. Now, WorthPoint does have a subscription level where you also get access to marks. So if you're using WorthPoint already, you might consider using the premium service that includes the mark service if you're running into that sort of thing. There are specific categories where marks are very important, such as silver, for example. It used to be that you would go and you'd get your silver marks book and you'd look them out. The great thing is that now a lot of that stuff is online. If you put silver marks, or I think it's sterling-925.com or something, but just put in sterling silver marks and you can put in European or American and it'll pop up a couple of sites where you can research a whole lot of stuff just very easily that way. But as far as marks books in general, there's so many categories. So it really depends on what you're interested in. There's not one source for everything that covers all the pottery, all the silver, all the furniture, all the other things that were made. It's just too big a field. So I would say that, look for what Dom said is absolutely true. Old reference books are a really good place to start and just figure out what categories either you already have in terms of things you've bought or that you think interests you as a reseller to buy and get the ones that are relevant to what you're looking for. And that way you can focus on those, learn some things and spot it in the field, because sometimes in the field you don't have your book with you and your wireless isn't working and you can't get a signal. I know, Kat, where you are, because when I'm in Florida, there's so many cinder block buildings with metal roofs and you've got full bars as long as you're outside, and the moment you walk in you have no phone service. So it's not a guarantee that you're just going to be able to whip it out. So I would say pick your categories, get some good marks information, and get at least a cursory knowledge in your head so that you can at least say, well, that looks like it's something familiar, I'll buy it.
Solid advice from both of those. I pick up stuff. I'm going to go with what they said. I pick up golf clubs and fishing stuff. Mark's pretty easy to find on those. So.
Yeah, and I have a couple of pottery books because I love pottery, but there's so much pottery that it's not going to even be in like the one book, and then there's all the different years. So I a lot of times rely on like what I like and what interests me, and if it's cheap, like George said, there's a lot of places here that I can't get a signal, so I can't look it up. But if it's like $5 or less and I think it looks really cool, I'll pick it up and then I'll research it later. And I didn't know, George, I'm glad you said that, because I didn't know WorthPoint had that extra with the markings, because I have the WorthPoint, but I just have the basic one. And I think I'm gonna say this anyways. I think everybody's answered, and I pulled that question out so everybody could see names, because I did see a few people in the chat asking who Julian was, who was next to me. He's my co-host, but he was off for 6 weeks. So if you're newer to my channel and newer to the show, you would not know who he is. He has actually been my co-host for almost a year now. So he just was MIA for 6 weeks. I think in a couple months we're coming up on a year that he's been my co-host. So Niche Quay, I'm going to give you your dolphin who doesn't have a name still. And then
we'll take suggestions.
I think
for the dolphin
contest.
I think you had.
Did I have another one, George?
You did, and I think he made a name suggestion. It was Brick House.
It's Steve. Steve.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna give Niche hers. We'll answer, and I'm gonna go find Steve. Steve, I'm sorry I missed it. Here, Niche.
Super chat.
Where? Oh, see, now I might have to name him that because I missed it. I've got it, Stephen. We're going to give you your dolphin, and I'll put your name suggestion up. I found a figure of Napoleon on a horse. The only comp was on Worth Point for 750. Mine's a little smaller. Would you suggest getting it appraised?
You know, if George wasn't sitting here, I'd hazard a guess to answer that. But when we have an appraiser, which is, I mean, that's right here. We're all
going to just defer to George.
I'm going to definitely defer to the appraiser.
That's what he says.
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know what Dom was going to say if I wasn't here, but I have but I think I might have the same answer, and that is that as a reseller, a lot of times you don't need an appraiser. I know I'm supposed to tell everyone I'm wonderful and you should send everything to me and pay me to do your work, but the truth is that if you've already found a comp and you're positive that you're looking at the same thing and yours is a different size, then the only thing left to do is figure out if you can find some comps that are a smaller size, because sometimes smaller sizes might be surprisingly more valuable than bigger ones. But on the other hand, generally they're going to scale down. So you would scale down from the comp that you saw. And I don't know that you necessarily need an appraiser to tell you that. A good reason for a reseller to have an appraiser would be like, I have something that's pretty valuable and I need something in writing so that when I sell the item, the people know that it's been looked at by someone else who agrees with this value or agrees with my definition of what it is and my description. That's actually more of an authenticator, but it is something that sometimes dovetails with appraisals. So, I tell resellers that appraisal for you is kind of the last stop. If you have something so rare and esoteric that you just can't find it, then yes, you probably need an appraisal. Otherwise, you just need to know where to find the information.
Hey, George, that is exactly what I was going to say. So,
I had a feeling. And it's true. I want to be honest with people. I mean, I do reseller appraisal work, and it's worthwhile in certain circumstances. But there's a lot of times when people send me something and honestly, for what they're going to pay me, to pay me $20 to give them a verbal approximation to say it's a $20 item, it's not worth your time. So, do your diligence first. And then if you really are stumped, then yes, appraisers like me can help you out.
And Julian, that's what we're going to be doing all night. Yeah.
That was good.
I think too, like, I look at what I pay too, and like, am I happy to get, like, say if you price it at $500 and I paid $500, I'm happy to get a $500 return on it. And if the person that bought it knows more than me and makes money on it, that's fine, because I'm happy making $500, and letting it go for that. I had like I think I told this last time George was on. Like, I had a violin that looked very similar to a $10,000 violin, and I just sent some photos to a violin auction house, and they said, no, sorry, we only do violins that are over $5,000, which told me right there, okay, mine is not. They're like, oh, no, thank you. And so I put it on auction, made $500 off of a $200 buy, which was fine. You know, that's still $300. So so Steve, I guess one of them can be named Larry. Nobody else, I haven't seen any other names put up there. So are we naming the dolphin Larry? There are 2 dolphins though. There's a dolphin for new members too. There are 2 dolphins. So here, Steve, is your dolphin.
Super chat.
But now I need you to tell me why I'm naming him Larry. Because you said I have to.
Okay.
Todd Hutchison wants to know, when there are multiple garage sales to go to on Saturday morning, how do you decide which one to go to?
I take different approaches to that and have taken different approaches to it over the years. Sometimes, and this was more when Yard Sale Treasure Map was available. It's still available, but when it had much more stuff on it than it does now. I would just plan a route, and just try to go to wherever things seem to be the most clustered, but also factoring in areas that I've had experience with in the past that tended to have better types of items that I use in my business, more of the vintage and collectible type of stuff. So for example, in the suburbs of Syracuse, there are areas that are well known for having much older and vintage types of things, whereas there are areas where people are pretty much house poor. They put all their money into their house and they don't have any collectibles or anything else around. So you walk into the house, these are houses you walk in, you have to take your shoes off as soon as you walk in, and everything looks, brand new, and they don't have anything that we would be able to source. So I would stay away from those areas. Other times I would, and sometimes it depends on the weekend. Like some weekends around here, like last weekend, there was just so many community garage sales. So we would just focus on community garage sale areas and just hit all those up. And then other times I just like to have fun and just say, you know what, I'm just going out today and I'm just driving around randomly and just kind of let the randomness take over and be like, all right, I'll just go here. I won't even use an app. I'll just look for whatever signs I find and follow the signs. So, it just varies. And I think that's, to mix things up, keep things fresh and fun.
Yeah, and I think it also depends on what you're looking for, because like you said, you walk into a new house and it's all new stuff. And for me, I only sell newer and more recent things when I'm doing estate sales, or if I take a consignment for someone and there's newer things in it, or if it's something of mine I'm done with and want to get rid of. I'm mainly looking for antique and vintage. So the way I do it is I'll go to, I know everyone who loves estate sales says estatesales.net, and I do advertise there. But to be honest with you, the first place I go is Craigslist, and I put estate in the search. I go to garage sales and then I put estate in the search, and anything that says estate sale I go to first because I know they're selling everything in the house. So you could find anything, new, old, or in between. And the other thing I search is I'll go to the garage sales on Craigslist and put antiques in the search or vintage in the search, and then see what comes up, because you'll see who thinks they have that sort of stuff. And so at least you have some idea of what they think they've got, and then you can kind of look through pictures and description and see if they're actually right and you see something. Otherwise, I do agree with Dom. Community sales are great. It's very efficient when there's a lot clustered in one area. So if it's sort of just a bunch of general garage sales and there aren't estate sales or something that looks really exciting, I'll try to pick an area with a whole lot of sales in one cluster so that you can go to a lot, because you have to kiss a lot of frogs before you turn up a prince, right? And so you might have to go to a lot of sales before you find anything good if it's just people having yard sales. But, if there's a whole bunch, you can kind of do that. I can always tell when I'm doing an estate sale, especially if it's later and a lot of the better stuff is gone and there's stuff outside, when they sort of slow down and do the cruise by and they're looking to see if it's all baby clothes, and then they either exactly, if they slam on their brakes, they saw something they like, and I do the same thing. So but that's how I approach them.
I would always go, because I do like outdoor gear, and we have a lot of communities that are golf course related, that are on golf courses. So I'm always looking for them they're my target, and then I kind of just branch out from there. And any type of community yard sale that's on a golf course that's my main focus. And I don't stop at all of them. I usually just drive around until I see exactly what I'm looking for, and then I usually will go back. I'm probably missing a whole bunch, but there's a lot of competition here for golf clubs and fishing equipment and stuff. So you almost have to do that if you want to even try to be in the same ballpark as some of these guys. So,
and I went yard sailing this weekend, but in my city there were 2, so it wasn't really like I just went to the closest one. When I go down to South Florida, I do like George was saying, and I look on Craigslist and I look at the pictures just to kind of see what they have, and I'll find like I find more what I don't want to go to if I see like a bunch of stuff that I'm like, no. So I know like I'm not going to spend 10 minutes driving off of, the highway to this place because they have a bunch of crap, that I'm not interested in buying. So right. I like mark off the ones I don't want to go to, and then I will go the other ones. But yard sale treasure map, it still pulls up the yard sales. It pulled up the 2 in my town. I was surprised. But I haven't went down to Southern Florida in a while, and I tend to I want to go to the estate sales as well and find like more, of a variety of stuff when they're selling everything.
Yeah, I will look at pictures also and descriptions, and sometimes search for keywords. So that's how I've actually gotten a lot of my comic collections, is by searching for comics, and someone advertised that, and then I say, all right, want to make sure I hit that up first, and then I've had a couple of videos where I've shown me just buying everything out right at the very beginning. So that's another strategy. Another little inside hack to use if you're going to do this for a while to make things more efficient is there are going to be people who are going to do recurring sales throughout the year and year after year. And some people's prices are just outrageous and not something that you could do anything with as a reseller. So what I created was a never return to list. So I'll say in my head, I'll see the address and I'll say, wait a minute, that one sounds familiar. That's the one where everything's like $100, it's way overpriced. So I'll go to my list. I'll say, yep. And believe it or not, that could save you a lot of time driving out to places. So,
yes, it's true. There was this guy in Seattle who was having a perpetual estate sale, quote unquote. And what he was really doing was he was using it to illegally have an indoor sales room in a house, and everything was priced at top end retail. And he did it week after week after week until enough of us dealers complained to the city, and they found out he didn't have a license, and that was the end of his sales. So,
yeah, I've seen some of those that are there week after week after week, and it's like George was saying, they're like probably it would be like me having a yard sale every weekend, and I'm going and getting all this auction stuff, and then having that. Angelo says, what about Depression and Carnival Glass, which doesn't usually have markings?
Yeah, George knows, because George, I don't know if you've seen, actually, I've been doing the ceramic glass challenge on my channel this year, where I'm when I go out to estate sales, I'm finding 3 things to choose from that are glass or ceramic to do, as you were saying in the beginning, to expand your knowledge in a certain area. And so, but I was asking George about that when he came on my channel and trying to learn more about it, because that's my weakness area, is glass. And so, and ceramics, and I'm trying to learn more about it, more the glass than the ceramics. But anyway, that's definitely a George question.
Well, I think that's a pretty good answer, actually. In some ways, it's just you go out there and see, and then, try first and then figure it out. However, Depression Glass and Carnival Glass are surprisingly easy in certain ways. Depression Glass, the answer, this is definitely one where it's so much more efficient if you go get an old collector's reference book. There was a guy named Gene Florence, and he wrote a Depression Glass guide, and he would update it every year for about 25 years. And they've been out of print for probably 10 or 12 years. So you can't go by the prices necessarily that are in them, but he shows every pattern. He takes pictures, he shows every known piece in the line, and at least even if the prices aren't the same as they are now, you can tell what pieces in the line are scarcer and more valuable because they have higher prices than the other pieces, even if it's old school prices. And that is a really great reference. And he used to travel north to south, so he really knew different regions, and it's a great way to learn. And you can take it with you, and then when you see stuff in the field, you just, oh, okay, it's that. Carnival Glass was one of the first things that people really started collecting because it was part of early American press glass, and that started being collected in the 1930s. It was probably the first thing other than maybe coins and stamps that were collected by people. And the Carnival Glass, again, I would say get a good book. There's one of the first books written as a collector reference was a woman named Ruth Lee Webb, and she wrote Carnival and pattern glass books. And hers are really good because they have lots of illustrations, but back then they didn't really know what all the names were, so people made up their own names, and then later they found factory information that said that, oh, and the name's actually this, so it can create some confusion. I would actually recommend getting a later Carnival Glass book that shows a lot of the patterns and use it that way. But again, I think this is one area, no matter what you're collecting, if there was a reference book written about it, it's going to have way deeper information than you can absorb by just looking through a million listings, because somebody, in the case when I wrote my book, Treasure Craft Pottery and Pottery Craft Stoneware, it took me a year. I had to find all sorts of different examples, learn the story of the company, try to put together. I ended up with 650 pieces, and then I had to pick which ones went in the book and how I presented the information so that people had a full view of the scope of it. So I guess what I'm saying is the people who wrote those books, even if the prices are old school and not relevant, they went to a lot of effort to do all that research, so you don't have to. So I would utilize that.
That makes sense. Here's another George. George, you're very popular.
Hashtag George knows.
I put that in the chat.
Well, I don't know everything, but and Ignacio Bayer is somebody whose name I know, but I will tell you, I understand how to research art. I do not have a PhD in art. I could definitely get you information about that artist because that is a listed artist. But again, it depends on the piece, because there's artists sometimes worked in watercolor, sometimes worked in oil. Oils are usually more expensive than watercolors. Size makes a difference. I know we all say that, but it's true in the case of art. So, there's, yes, I know a little, but not enough to tell you something really useful to you right now without seeing the piece.
A question for Dom. I am coming across comic books and lots of Hot Wheels. Should I pick them up? Oh, you answered her. I see.
Yeah, I did. But in general, with comic books, because I obviously get a ton of people who ask me about that. Should I buy it? Should I buy it? Generally, if you're buying in bulk, and that's really what you want to try to do. It's very hard to just buy 15 comic books from someone and, make a good deal. You really do have to buy them in bulk. So, and believe it or not, a lot of people don't realize this. You're really trying to get them for about 15 cents a piece, unless there's something that, you could clearly identify and the person selling it to you also knows is really worth a lot of money. Like there's multiple $100 books, $1,000 book, then obviously that rule doesn't apply. But otherwise, that's what you're trying to get them for. And you have to be really careful about condition, because people who are not knowledgeable about comic books and don't deal with it much, they simply don't realize the types of condition flaws that are on these items and really make the value go down significantly. What might to you look like a relatively subtle problem, or maybe even just overlook it, things like creases on the books, subtle stains, blunting on the spines of the books. All these things add up and cause problems, or even flipping through the book and not realizing that people cut out the Marvel value stamp or something like that could really shoot the value down. And there's a big myth that just because the comic books are in a bag and a board, so a plastic bag with a backing board, that means that they're in great condition. I hear this all the time. No, it doesn't, because anyone could just take a comic book that has condition problems, put it in the bag and the board and close it up. And that doesn't mean it's now all of a sudden magically in great condition. But I'll tell you what, the comic books do display much better inside of those plastic bags. It really does help to hide a lot of the flaws. So a lot of times you got to take them out and you have to look at it, and you have to be careful not to catch the tape onto the comic book when you're pulling it out, because many people have damaged many comic books doing it that way. So be careful, and always remember, and this goes for other collectibles too, just because it's old doesn't mean it's valuable.
Very true. Mama Girl sent a $5 super chat. I'm going to get you the dolphin that might be Larry.
Super chat.
And guys, if I am missing your question, the chat is going fast. We have over 300 people. Ask it again. Don't feel shy to ask it again, because the chat skips and I am probably missing a lot of questions. Mama Girl wants to know, why do some estate sales give no deals on the last day with a house still only half sold of not big dollar items like office, craft supplies, clothes, etc.?
Most likely because they have some type of other arrangement in place for when those items don't sell. So they have some kind of end lot person who they have a deal with, or they're going to move those items to auction. So it's usually something like that. Or there might even be some type of arrangement with the family to, give some, take some items back. But usually it's that they have an end lot person, or they're going to move it to auction.
That's absolutely right. And there are, now when I conduct estate sales, I almost always do virtually everything half off on the last day, because it's the last day. It's time for it to go. But sometimes clients do not want that. Sometimes there are particular items where that's not appropriate, like if there's something that's valuable enough that really we should be sending this at auction for the client. Because when I do an estate sale, I have two customers. The client is my customer, and the people coming to buy the client's things are the client and my customer, and I have to take care of both of them. There is one other situation. I do know I won't say specifics, but there is a very high-end estate sale seller in one city where I do business who honestly prices things really high and then buys them at the end of this estate sale from the family, which is absolutely a conflict of interest and should not happen. But that is the reason that they don't do discounts and I don't go to their sales. But the other reason, when you're talking about basic stuff like office and craft supplies and clothes and things, I would say don't hesitate to ask them. If they're not doing a blanket discount when you go in on the last day of a sale, ask them, oh, do you have a buyout person for this? Or do you ever do any discounts on the last day? Or if I took a bunch of a category, would you give a discount? Because they may say yes. I have friends who do estate sales in Florida, and they don't officially discount on the last day of the sale, but they'll give a discount to anybody who asks for it. But you kind of have to know that. So don't be shy to talk to the people running the sale.
I know a couple places here that have warehouses that stuff after the sale goes back to their warehouse and they'll do monthly sales. They still do 50% off, I think, most times on the last day, but they won't negotiate below that. Like I've tried to get, you say craft supplies, I've tried to negotiate like stamp lots because I've sold, bundles of stamps, the wood stamps for decent money, and I tried to buy like a whole tote and they would not, like the 50%, and they said it was the family not wanting to go below. So I don't know if that was true. And I tried to buy out like over $1,000 worth of stuff from an estate sale just a few weeks ago, and they would not bend, and it was the last 30 minutes of the sale. I called them, and like I offered them like $800 on like $1,300. It was $500 off, but it was $800 that was still sitting there 30 minutes from the end, and they just said no. What they are going to do with that $1,300 worth of cosmetics, I don't know, because that's what it was. But you just sometimes you just got to say, I don't know. And it's frustrating for me because a lot of times I wait until the last minute to hold on, roulette. Oh, wait. Okay. I'm OCD about like where everybody goes, guys. But yeah, so it like that was hard for me because basically they were like right at 50% of eBay cost, and I knew after fees and stuff I'd only be making 30 to 40%, which wasn't enough.
Hey, I forgot to answer. I got so caught up in the comic books, of course. There was the other part of that question was about the Hot Wheels.
Oh, the Hot Wheels, yes.
Yeah. So if you, this is for everybody who's listening, if you find Hot Wheels that have, and it could be easily missed if you don't know about it, but the red lines around the wheels, they're called red line Hot Wheels. Those are very valuable. You definitely want to look for those. Those are Hot Wheels that came out from 68 to 72. So if you're looking at newer Hot Wheels, I mean, generally you'd want ones in the package and ones that were like a special limited edition. There's so many bulk Hot Wheels that came out that you could really go wrong making a purchase on a lot of Hot Wheels if you don't know which ones you're, what you're getting yourself into. Because I know plenty of people who they poured a lot of money into Hot Wheels and it was just a bunch of bulk, stuff that doesn't really have much resale value. So you do have to be careful with that.
Yeah, and Dom, didn't they also make some red lines recently, like reboots, but the wheels are a little different, so you kind of have to know what you're looking at there too.
True, right? Yeah, you always, and that's also true for comic books. George, great point. Is that they will make reproduction comic books for people who just don't have the money or the resources to get those original older ones. And for someone who's a collector, it's really pretty easy to spot because there are some differences with how the covers look, although they try to keep it pretty close. But there are people who just don't know much about comic books who get really easily tricked and say, oh my gosh, wow, look, this is and look at the condition that it's in. Well, that's first of all a big red flag. It looks like it's in mint condition. It's supposed to be from 1940. No, that's not a reproduction comic book. But people get tripped up with that a lot. So yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point with those repros.
Alex and Steve, I see both of your super chats, so I'm going to get them right after we answer Angelo's question. Do y'all sell worldwide or just US? Used to do worldwide, but not only a hassle. A few Canadians tried to get me to declare value of $200 violins as $10 to $20 salvage to avoid taxes, so I quit.
Well, I sell worldwide. I didn't always used to do that. When I first started out, I was just doing US only sales. And then someone, pulled me aside one day at the flea market and he said to me, he's like, listen, you really need to start selling internationally. He's like, think of it this way. He's like, right now you're just selling to the US. He goes, that's a relatively small market. He goes, it's like selling here at this flea market. He goes, but what if you could sell to all flea markets? Just picture that you just opened up your available markets this much. And I said, yeah, that's a pretty good point. So I just started doing international sales, and I haven't had any issues. I haven't had any problems. I use the global shipping program on eBay, and I'm very happy with it. And I know there's other ways to go about it, but that's what I use. And yeah, I enjoy doing it.
I actually didn't sell worldwide. I did, and then I had some not great experiences, and I heard horror stories from friends of mine who were sending things to Italy, and apparently if you send it to Italy through the post, the likelihood is it will be stolen. And so, and they may, so I avoided it for a while. And then I started doing YouTube. And once I had a YouTube channel, I suddenly had viewers from all over the world. And they were saying, well, how come I can't play too? And so the great thing is what's changed is eBay has the international shipping now. And so they did take, it's one of the things eBay has added that actually makes it easier for resellers instead of harder. So that's nice. And I actually have started using that, and it's been pretty seamless so far. As far as the thing with the declaration on customs, I have a lot of empathy for our fans and friends in Canada. I realize the exchange rates are rough, but you also you get more of your dollars, and we just can't lie on a customs form because we are personally liable. So please don't ask us to do that.
Right.
Yeah, I do the global shipping program, and for golf clubs, it is like super, super good. I sell a lot of stuff overseas. So yeah, don't lie on customs forms. Bad.
Right.
George, another one related to that I love, and Julian and Kat have probably heard this too, is, hey, could you just, like lower the price for me, like almost in half, because I have to pay these extra fees and stuff. I'm like, no.
Yeah. I
I
have got that. I think though, and I probably ship out, I would say an average of 10 international sales a week out of about 100 sales a week. And I think I've only been asked that like once or twice over a 3-year span. So I think maybe you just hit a bad run of people, because I don't think, I haven't found it to be commonplace. I have, like Dom said, I have, like maybe once or twice a month, people play on that, hey, I have to pay all these taxes and fees. Right. And I'm like, sorry, because if I sell it here, I'm going to get that money. So yeah,
exactly. Right.
And we have to pay taxes and fees too, folks. So
yes.
Right.
Alex, that man, the flipper, formerly known as Fat Man the Flipper, whose weight loss has been amazing. I have watched him on Instagram lose so much weight. And Alex, you look absolutely phenomenal. He said, because Dom is a beast and I'm a queen. So Alex, thank you. I'm going to give you your dolphin. He doesn't have a question, and we have 2 more super chats I'm going to grab after Alex.
Super chat.
And this one's, look, we'll do another dolphin, but this is another one that is not a question. Larry was the best of the 3 Stooges. And then I saw somebody else. What did they want to name him? Hold on. I saw a second vote for something. Where did it go?
Zeppelin is what I saw.
I think I saw a different one, I think.
We need to, I don't know if Tommy's still here, but we need to get a vote from Tommy on what we should name.
I see. Tommy, what do you name? We name the dolphin. Oh, second vote for Darth. Second vote for Darth, I see. And then I have Jock and Luna. We have lots of dolphin names.
I don't know.
Oh, go ahead, Dom.
I don't know if you could see behind me here, but Darth he's getting a massage here behind me from the beautiful ladies. And he does want me to tell you he does like the name. You see, Tommy, he says he does agree. So.
All right, let me give you guys a dolphin. Marjorie, the stuffologist, thank you so much. $5 super chat. So 3 in a row, no questions. I'm gonna go back and grab questions after the dolphin.
Super chat.
Someone said flipper, duh.
Yeah, I said that
Flipper.
first. That's just too obvious.
That's like the default name, I think.
Right.
Someone else said Mortimer, so we're getting some others.
We're getting lots of dolphin names. How can shipping be cheaper? I don't know if I know what he means. I don't know if you guys do on a site versus another like eBay. Maybe like Facebook or Mercari or Poshmark.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he means by on site.
I'm not sure how much they vary by site, but I will say something I've been running into lately is that I'll put in that my standard is usually USPS ground, because the post office 2 blocks, it's easy. I can get it out right away. I put that in, I do the listing, the thing ends, and then when I go to actually ship it, eBay then tells me, oh, that is probably not eligible for USPS ground and you can't do it that way. And they want me to send UPS. And I have had some pretty bad experiences with UPS. So that's usually my last choice. And if I go to Pirate Ship and put the same information in, it will take the same package that eBay says, and that'll send it USPS ground. That eBay said I couldn't do. Pirate Ship says I can. So in that regard, that's one place where you might get a better deal on something if you're getting that kind of noise. Beyond that, I'm not really sure, because I mean, shippers are shippers and they charge what they charge.
Yeah, another thing would be, let's say on eBay you had a book, for example, that you didn't put in the book section. You put in like the science fiction section or something, and eBay will then tell you when you, even though you listed it as media mail, which you could send that way because it's a book, when it sells and you go to ship a media mail, eBay blocks it out and doesn't allow you to access it. This just happened to me last night. So I just go over, I say, okay, I'll play this little game. I go over to Pirate Ship and I just print out the label, select media mail, and it's like, ha ha, eBay. So still ship it out that way. It's just dumb.
Yeah, I've had a couple issues with that too. It would say that eBay was having trouble generating something. I just go to Pirate Ship and do the same thing I was going to do before they said they couldn't do it. So
yeah, but I think they're trying to force you over to a higher shipping because they get more money if you ship it priority versus media mail. So that's why they're blocking fields out like that, and they're blocking the lower field out.
Right. Part of that subsidy, is a kickback to them.
Right.
Like Poshmark has a flat shipping fee, which is really cheap, and that's because they have negotiated that deal with USPS. So like I've sold a lot of heavier items because Poshmark, like up to 5 pounds is still like $8, $8 or $9. So I've sold like housewares and glasswares and stuff, and I feel like people are buying it over there because they're only paying $8 in shipping, where if they're paying my calculated on eBay, it would be like $20. So, but that's Poshmark has that deal, and they only have one shipping, but it also is that same price to ship out something that is 3 or 4 ounces that would only cost $3 or $4 on eBay. So yeah. Flipping over 2021, how do I look up old marbles? I even have some that look like wood and are larger, found in grandparents' house, and they have been gone more than 10 years. So if they were alive, they would be almost 100.
There probably is, because marbles are I'm trying not to say marvel because I'm getting the comics. But no, marbles. There are collectible, marble books out there that you can get. But I think most people would try to comp them based on eBay. I think that's an area that you're really only gonna know inside and out if you really just do a lot of stuff with marbles. There's, so except George probably knows.
No, actually, that's absolutely true. There are so many that were done. There's a lot that are end of day that are the most valuable. And end of day was where they had some glass left in the kiln. They were going to shut the kiln down, and it's all going to harden, like especially on a Friday, because it would harden over the weekend, and then they have to destroy it and turn it into cullet, and it turns into an ugly gray color. So instead, they just tell the workers, well, if you want to make some stuff, and people would make themselves gear shift knobs or stuff out of whatever glass was left. Well, those weren't the production colors, it's just whatever they threw in. And so some of those are the rarest now. So when you start seeing color combinations that don't seem like your other marbles, those are the ones to put aside and look for. The other thing is, I had the good fortune, and it's in one of my videos, and I think it came out last September, from Sparks, Kansas. I did a flea market there, and there was a neighboring town also doing a flea market, and there was a guy there who happened to be a marble collector and dealer, and he had trays full of them, and he went through with me while I filmed him and said, this is this company, this is this company, here's how you tell apart. And I learned more in that 10 minutes than I had ever known about marbles before. So if you want to check that out, that'll at least orient you to who the different makers in the US were and the types of things they did, so that you can start recognizing who from who. And then at that point, then you can go to eBay and do your research with some information to figure out, do I have something that's really special?
I bought a whole bunch at an auction and tried to look them up individually, and I gave up. It was like ridiculous. And I think they were all like looked the same. So I was like, this is crazy.
Sometimes I
don't know marbles.
Sometimes I just ask Mrs. Primetime because she is a marble collector. So we have all sorts of marble tubes filled all over the house. She's been collecting them since she was a little girl. But one other thing I would mention, though, is if you watch my channel and you watch me go out on my sourcing adventures, I carry around a blue bag with me with all sorts of tools and little things that I need depending on what kind of situation that I come up against. And one of the things I carry around with me are a few marbles. And the reason that I carry around marbles is that every once in a while you are going to come across a marble ramp. And it's very helpful to have a marble with you to test that everything is working properly in terms of, you know, that marble being able to go down and you know, and around all of the parts that it's supposed to go to, because sometimes the pieces are, you know, not working quite correctly, and then it would be a bad buy. But those things are awesome buys. I've done very well picking something up, even at garage sales, for like $5 and selling them for $70-$80. You know, if they're cool looking and older and old enough, they do really well. So carry around a marble.
There you go.
Tim says, thanks to George for telling me about Tri-State Antique Market. It was awesome. And I will say as well, George told me about Peachtree in McDonough, Georgia when I was driving home. So I will say thanks to George for recommending me somewhere. Tim and I both went to the reseller rally. So it sounds like George recommended places for both of us to stop while we were driving around. All right, let me give Patty her dolphin. Renee, I see your picture up there as well for the super chat, so I will get you right after this. Let me give Miss Patty.
Super chat.
Thank you. Patty wants to know if anyone knows about military patches.
I mean, I sell all sorts of patches. I like not military and non-military. But they're pretty easy to look up. I mean, with patches, you could just, you know, do a scan and do a search on Google Photos and get tons of research and information on it really quickly. Google Lens is really what I primarily would use through Google Photos. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what specific question you have on it, but they're pretty easy to comp and they sell well. And there's lots of collectors out for all sorts of patches. It's one of the things, actually, I mentioned the flea market earlier on when we used to go to a swap shop. That's one of the first things we would pick up in bulk and sell really well. We're just big lots of patches, get them real cheap, and it was amazing what people would pay for them. So
that's true. And there are it's kind of like any other category of collecting, like US military patches. There's 98% of them are common, just like just about 98% of any collecting category is relatively common, and there's a small handful that are scarce. What you're looking for with American military patches, first of all, if it has that kind of plasticky coating on the back, rather than just looking like fabric and a bunch of little strings, if it has this sort of plasticky wax coating on the back, that's going to mean probably you're looking at Vietnam era or later. And so all other things being equal, you want ones that don't have that. And then the real value has a lot to do with obscure places people served. Like my dad was in Antarctica in the Navy, and his Antarctica patches are worth a lot more than anything else he got because not very many people went there. Certain infantry groups that are no longer around and got merged into other ones. That's what people are really looking for. And Dom's absolutely right. You can do that search. There's also, if you just put in military insignia images, there's some websites that turn up a lot of stuff so that you can see a lot of things on one page.
Yep, I agree. I bought and sold a whole bunch of them, but I use Google Lens. That's about it.
and
I
don't
know, and
forget-
I don't
Sorry,
I don't
go
know
ahead,
if Dave's in there. Dave bought like 800 military patches, and through selling them, Dave is very knowledgeable Tesla picker. He bought 800, and they they're selling, some of them sold upwards of like $100, I think. So Tesla picker might be somebody good, because he's recently had like this, he bought boxes of them, and he just, you're going to learn as you list. And like Dom said, look on Google Lens. But now I think Dave is like a reference point just because he bought, like 800 patches. So when you buy 800 of something, you're going to naturally learn about that.
Also, as a related, don't forget police patches and fireman patches. They sell really well, really fast. There's tons of collectors for them, and people try to match the city that they lived in. They try to get something related to maybe a relative who was, who served. And there's just people who just flat out collect things by state, by county, or just people who are just really want to get everything they can from obscure
from the
places.
fire and police.
Yeah.
All right, Renee, let me give you your dolphin, and then we will see if George can answer that.
Super chat.
So she said she has amazing original detailed pencil drawing of Indian person's local deceased artist. How do I value?
Okay, well, first of all, she spelled Indian with a capital I, so I'm assuming that's from India, but I'm suspecting she may actually mean like Native American Indian, and that's going to make a little difference in terms of how you might find that information. But since you know it's a local artist, the first thing I would do is try to figure out if that artist is listed as a listed artist, meaning if you do a Google search or if you go to Invaluable or one of the art directories, can you find a listing for that person's name? Because if you can, it means there's a secondary market. And if you can't, it means there's a good chance there isn't. And you're just looking at a lot of neat looking pictures that somebody talented did, but the value is in the decorative part and not for the artist's name. So as a general guide, that's what I can tell you. More specifically, if they're from India or Native American Indians, in any event, trying to figure out, like if they're really detailed, say they're Native American, trying to figure out what tribal attribution, what was it they were trying to depict? Is this a fantasy thing, or are they actually trying to depict someone who is a specific tribe? Because if it's a specific tribe, then you can start researching that way. So kind of need a little more information to answer that correctly, but hopefully that gives you a few clues. Another thing too is that if it's not a listed artist, you still, since you said it was someone local, if you have a local museum, you might find out if they have any of their work or are familiar with them. Museums won't do value appraisals, but they are good about giving information. And if they say, oh yes, we have a collection of that, and people, we thought it was very significant because, then they might actually have some information on that person that would help you track it too.
Yeah, and I found I had a few sketches that came with like 1960s Navajo pamphlets I got, and I comped them just by similar look, because one of them I did find the artist and there was a market for his, so his went higher, but the other ones still sold decent because there are a lot of Native American collectors, I feel like, go off the look of, what that drawing and the detail of it is.
Yeah, so much of it is really a decorative market. Even if they do know, it's more like it's a look and I want it to look cool. So yeah, and I noticed in the chat she said it was Native American. So if they're the other thing, I'm not sure where you are, Renee, but if
she's in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's probably not going to help, because the drawing, they all were marched away in the Trail of Tears. So there's not going to be some local tribe you could go to. So that won't relate.
Cynthia says, flat rate shipping versus calculated shipping. Which one do you suggest? This is a loaded question, I will tell you. I'm sure in the chat there is debate before any of us answer it.
Kat, just to mention, Marcia wanted to know if you saw her super chats. You did do a super chat.
I didn't. Marcia went away. Don't send another one. Do you want a dolphin? I'm going to give Marcia a dolphin right now because I didn't see it, because the chat's going so fast. This for Marcia.
Super chat.
Thank you, Marcia. It's hard sometimes, the super chats get like swept up away, and I did not see it. So thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you helping me pack. She helped me like stuff my car full of stuff in off and on rain today. And then we went, and I got to go. Her mom volunteers at my favorite thrift store, so I got to meet Marcia's mom today, which was nice. And they bought the building next door, so they're going to have two buildings. The one thrift store will have two. So that was fun to go into the building and see it before they're moving like their clothing and jewelry and purses and then everything else. And they have a ton of like decor and glass at that thrift store. So that'll give that stuff more room, which will be nice. So thank you. Okay. Now we will answer Miss Cynthia's question. Thank you, Dom.
My answer to that is neither, because what I do, and you're right that this is one of these things where like World War III erupts no matter what you say, is that I have a free shipping model, so I just incorporate the shipping into the price ahead of time and factor that into my overall price, and then I don't have to worry about any of this other stuff that always comes up with shipping. So, but I do always tell people you have to do what works for your business. I totally understand for some people the way they have things set up that doesn't work for them, and they have to use a different model, which is fine. But I'm just saying for the model that I use, I'm able to incorporate that in everything that I sell. Big, small, doesn't matter. Now, experience plays into that. If you're brand new starting out, it's going to be trickier to do that. But I know even when I'm sourcing and I know, wait a minute, does this make sense to pick up for this price point, given that I know worst case scenario, if I'm shipping it from New York to California, how much that's going to cost? I'm factoring that into my buy price. So you have to figure that into things. And also remember that free shipping, quote unquote, free shipping is not literally free shipping. You're not literally giving free shipping. It just says free shipping so they don't feel like they're paying anything extra on top of it. But you've already incorporated into it. Just doing free shipping, literally, you'll go out of business. Can't do that.
Can't do that.
Yeah, absolutely true. I tried flat rate, and I found that I was not very good at estimating. Plus, I travel, and so what I think I know when I'm in one place turns out to be wrong for another place. So I've been shifting more towards calculated shipping, especially because the things I do are all so different in size and weight and that sort of thing. And I figure it's easier for the customer to be able to calculate it and then make their bid based on what they can afford. Now, having said that, there are times when flat rate is a better deal. And I saw someone in the chat say, if you're able to offer both and let them choose if that's your model. On the other hand, I have friends in Oregon who do glass and china and heavy stuff. They've been dealers for decades. They started really selling a lot online, and they said, well, younger people expect free shipping, so we just do everything with the shipping included, and we figure out, and sometimes we make a little, sometimes we lose a little, it comes out in the wash. They sell high enough dollar items that a few dollars difference to them is not a big deal. I sometimes sell things that don't have that much margin, so to me it is a big deal. If you're selling something easy to ship, then free shipping may be the right way to go. And also, I would say look at what other people selling in that category are doing. If everybody is offering free shipping, then if you aren't, you probably aren't going to get noticed. And for example, I have a friend who sells sports cards. And because eBay changed the way things go and the rates went up and it got to be more hassle, he said, well, I need to get paid for the shipping. And his sales went right down because everyone else who sells sports cards was offering free shipping. So then he changed his prices so the free shipping, quote unquote, was included, and his sales went back up.
Right.
So there's not one and right answer, I guess, is the answer.
Yep.
Julian, are you awake? He's sleeping.
I think he's frozen solid.
Is he frozen with the side? We were copying Misty whenever she froze last night.
Yes.
I do mostly calculated because most of my stuff is heavier than like the 2-pound mark. A lot of the collectibles and glassware. I will occasionally do free shipping, like George was saying. Like I'll do it like a lot of my T-shirts and stuff that's under a pound. If everybody else in that similar category has free shipping, then I will do it. But my reasoning, and I remember participating in Dom's chat about this and said that I do not do the free shipping is because I promote everything. And for me, oh my gosh, sorry guys. For me, promoting everything, the promoted fee isn't on the shipping cost. So if I build my shipping in, I'm paying an extra % on more of a dollar amount than if the customer's paying the shipping. I do some flat rate as well with stuff that I can estimate, and it isn't a big span because 3-pound items, 4-pound items, 5-pound, there's going to be a $20 difference from the East Coast to the West Coast. And unfortunately, I'm in the bottom corner in Florida, and a lot of my stuff goes out to California and Oregon, and it goes far away. So that stuff I do calculated, but like T-shirts, or if it's a 2-pound item, it's going to top out at 12. So I might do it at 10. So East Coast people, they're paying $2 more and the West Coast people are getting it $2 cheaper, but that's where it washes out, but I don't do that for everything. Julian, go ahead and answer that.
Sorry, I have a big storm coming in, and I can hear it. And every time
we have thunder here too. Yeah, it's nasty.
Every time like lightning's my internet. So if I lose total power, I'll just I'll go someplace where there's not a storm. But I do mostly calculated shipping, and I agree with George. Like in the golf club realm, everybody kind of
golf carts now.
Yeah, they do like shipping. So it's like half and half, so it's not like a big deal. But if I'm selling something where I'm looking up and all comps are free, then I'll move to free shipping, just add the price in to the actual thing. But most of my stuff is going to be calculated. I tried flat rate, and I was the same boat. Like a lot of things got shipped to California, and that $3 difference that I was missing was kind of a big deal on a lot of those items, because I would get hit with like 5 right off the bat. And it would be like 15, 20, 30 bucks that I would lose in shipping costs. A lot of stuff gets sold and then shipped to California.
Thrifty Life wants to know, George, who was the author of the Depression Glass book you recommended?
For regular Depression Glass, Gene Florence, Gene, and the last name Florence, like Florence, Italy, or Florence Henderson, or anything like that. There also is the area of elegant depression glass, and that's the finer stuff like the Fostorias and the Cambridge that's a little thicker and fire polished and was made better. That's another realm in and of itself, and there are books on that as well, also by the same author and also by Randy and Debbie Coe out of Oregon. And I think you can still order theirs direct from them, and they're very good and give very thorough listings too.
Is Mrs. Primetime in the chat? I see people responding to Mrs. Primetime, but I don't see Mrs. Primetime.
I don't know. I don't think so. I did mention her with her marble. Is she here?
I don't know.
Oh.
Donatella said she loved Dom's video. Dom had a great video that came out. Was it yesterday, Dom?
Last night, yes.
Yeah. He premiered last night. With an amazing story. So if you guys go sub to him, Richard has been dropping the links. You will see his video from last night.
Get a tissue because you may cry by the end of the video. So
yes.
Warning. Some people are saying that already in the chat.
Yes. Is there any time picker wants to know and I think that is Roman. Roman, tell me if that is you. I met Roman at the Cincinnati Reseller rally. Is there any value in older newspapers? I got possibly over 1,000 older years newspapers, so I need to know which ones can be worth something.
There definitely is. I love working with paper items. So one of the things to look for are things that are obscure. That also goes for comic books. There's something called underground comic books, and there are underground newspapers. So these are things that were made by small publishers. They also have them they call them fans. It's their like black and white magazine-sized. They look like comic books inside, but they also have articles inside as well. A lot of them were like sci-fi related. But the newspapers, so underground ones by small publishers that were obscure, things that relate to important historical events, whether it's something military, like war related, or also something sports related. For example, like if you had something with Kobe Bryant leading his team to a championship and showing him, on the main cover of like the, Los Angeles newspaper celebrating with the team, like that would be something that, especially now, would have some significant value. So yeah, there definitely is value towards older newspapers. Another thing, by the way, and this relates to my comic books, is that if you get old newspapers and maybe there aren't the types of things that I'm telling you on them, like there's not something really important on it that's historical, it's not something obscure, it's not something really old, look to see if the newspaper still has the comic strip section in them, because if they do, you could clip out those comic book strips and you would not believe what those will sell for if you put a lot of those comic strips, original strips, online. You get some great money. And then there could also be some value in some of the old ads that you could find in there as well. So there's lots of things to look for in the old papers.
That's absolutely right. And when you mentioned obscure things, you mentioned fanzines and things, but there are a lot of places. I'm originally from Seattle. Seattle had a publication called The Rocket. Well, that was only in the 1980s and early 90s, but it was a music magazine, and they interviewed all of the bands that then ended up becoming famous a few years later. So some of those are worth money now because they're these obscure early interviews with people who then became a bigger deal later. And so there's a market that's way bigger than the amount that were published originally. But as far as old newspapers in general, if you're talking about the daily paper, by and large, a lot of them are only worth $1 or $2. And there are certain ones we see everywhere. Almost every house, if that household was around when John F. Kennedy was shot, they have every paper from when John F. Kennedy was shot. The only one that's really worth a lot of money is the one from the Dallas Morning News, because that's where it happened. So if you have a significant historical event that would make a paper interesting to someone, if it's from the place that event happened, it's going to be worth a lot more than if it's from another place that just picked it up on the wire and published it. And one other thing about old newspapers, if you get back to just general newspapers, well, start looking for things really before the Second World War, and especially if you get back to where before they had photographs in them, then people will buy them just because they're that old, even if they're not really a very interesting issue. And one final thing I'll mention really fast, St. Petersburg, Florida is an example. There was a period of time where one day a week they would actually publish an insert for the Black community, and most of the time they were ignored. But one day a week they got a special insert, and that is important to Black historians and Black Americana collectors. So there are weird little niches to look for.
Yeah, what they said.
That's Julian's line for the night. I want to know. So, George, if he's saying he has 5,000 of them, so would you recommend he look through each of them? Or that's a lot of newspapers to go. Like, I feel like I would almost lot them up. Like, would you, and Dom too, if you're saying with the comic strips, like, are you going to look through each individual newspaper with 5,000 of them?
5,000 is a lot. I probably would not have bought 5,000. So that's a newspaper. So that's, I mean, I buy 5,000 comic books. So I guess it just depends on what you're into. I mean, I tend to be patient with the stuff that I buy, and if there's a way to extract value out of it, I will. So I'm not saying that as in a bad way to the person who bought the newspapers. It's just that or anytime picker. Sorry, because I'm right now actively going out and buying tons of Lego lots, and there's thousands of pieces of those, and I will go through and sort them and figure out a way to do it. So you just got to have a strategy on what is it that you want to do it at, what is it that you want to mainly look for, and have a way to try to efficiently pull that stuff out that's valuable, or what you want to do it. You got to get a sense of your collection. You got to learn it a bit. You got to see what it is you have there, and whatever does not look like it's going to have significant value, that's the kind of stuff that you're going to wind up lotting.
Yeah, I think that's true. And also just look at the dates and the years, because significant events that are really significant, they don't happen every day. So if you've got a whole bunch in there from the year such and such, it's really easy, especially now, to Google top 10 events of the year, blah, 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 and then see if you have a newspaper that talks about those. Then you're just looking at headlines, and you're not looking through every single one, looking for, to see if maybe there's an article in there that somebody thinks is interesting. At least it narrows it down.
Yeah.
Can I just pass on one other quick thing? So only because it's not newspaper, but it's because we're talking about looking for things inside of paper-related items. And it's just a little comic book hack that most people don't know about who don't do comic book stuff. But if you happen to, this is something you're going to have to jot down. You're not going to remember off the top of your head. But if you happen to flip through a comic book and see an advertisement inside of it that says Mark's Jewelers on it, that can significantly increase the price of the book because there weren't that many published per issue that had that particular ad in it. And it's become a famous thing within the comic book community, particularly if you have a comic book that's a very valuable one. It will actually then be called a Mark Jewelers variant. They're actually collectors who walk around with Mark Jewelers t-shirts because it's just become a funny thing within the community. But if the average person saw it and flipped through it and saw that Mark Jewelers ad, you wouldn't think much of it. But I mean, it could cause some dramatic increases to prices and would literally actually be mentioned by CGC when they grade the book. They literally would put that on top, that it's a Mark Jewelers variant.
So Dom, tell me what Mark Jewelers is. I don't know this.
Yeah, it's literally a jewelry company, and they would advertise in comic books about their jewelry, and but they didn't have the advertisements didn't come out in every single issue per se that was ever produced, and so there are some issues that came out that had it and some that didn't have it, and so the ones that were produced that had it. Since there's a minority of them out there, it's really just a supply and demand thing with that, George. So because of that supply and demand issue, it increases the value of those particular books.
Interesting. Oh, that's cool.
Really cool. Yeah.
Well, should we go on to this question? Because Kat seems to be frozen for a minute.
Sure.
I'll let you start.
Hi, this is from Sherry Jackson. I need help with Buddha goddesses. I've got a lot and they look so old and so hard to find. Anything you guys could help with? I've checked Worth Point, no luck, or help. I actually have a significant interest in religious items. For those who know from watching on my channel, I have a whole show dedicated to religious statues, for example. But the religions of Asia, I really am interested in. I remember I took a class in that in college. It was one of my favorite classes. So I love the Buddha goddesses and the Hindu gods and goddesses as well. So I would just get some kind of, reference book about them and start looking them up and start doing research again based on eBay comps and, try and figure it out that way. Antique books could be helpful as well. They'll have sections that are dedicated to that. But you could look for maker's marks on them, as we were talking about earlier, which could also help you. But again, pass it on to George. He's evaluated way more Buddha goddesses type of items than I have, so he'll definitely be able to give you a better answer on them. But there is definitely value in those types of pieces, and I love trying to sell them when I get them.
It's a really interesting collecting category, and I have to say I don't know how much help I can be, but I can give you some hints. One of the things with things made in Asia is that there is a huge market for particularly right now, Chinese art and artifacts, and from India as well, because there's suddenly a lot of money in those countries and they spent centuries sending their things away and now they would like to have them back. So the category is great. The problem is that there are lots of fakes and forgeries. There's lots of fake looking age and wear. And the fact that a lot came to you together is a little concerning to me as far as value, because generally I wouldn't expect to see several in the same place. But if they're all different from each other and significantly different, then, it could just be someone had a collection. I cannot say that I have enough expertise to evaluate them through a picture or anything. You really kind of have to look at them in person. But I would say that now, out west, a lot of the cities have Asian art and artifacts museums. And again, museums don't do appraisals. They're not going to give you values. But if you can find a museum day, or even on a slow day, go in and talk to a docent, they may have someone on staff who would be able to at least help you evaluate what you're seeing and get some idea of age and possible value. And on top of it, to make it even more complicated, the Chinese, like in the Qing dynasty, reproduce things made in the Ming dynasty. So you have to know not just the mark, but what's different between the Qing dynasty and the Ming dynasty. I mean, it really is a whole area of expertise in and of itself. So you may have to find someone who has specific expertise to be able to help you. But those are some hints to get started.
And don't forget the Cha-Ching dynasty too. That's
my favorite dynasty.
Yeah, that's the
The
most important one.
Chinching-a-thon.
the
I
Cha-Ching.
picked up a carved Buddha, not a goddess, but a Buddha, and I put him on auction. If people have been watching my channel a while, he went up over $200, and I picked him up for $3. I just took very good pictures and put that it was this size Buddha and let him go. And I do that with a lot of stuff because I list so much. I don't stop to do all of this background and research. If I can't find it very easily, if it's not marked, I'll, put it at like what I'm happy with getting on auction. And again, it could be a $5,000 piece and I might be losing out, but I'm happy getting 50 off of a $5 investment, and somebody else might make $5,000 off of what I find,
Could I just mention two things? Just some random kind of things related to what we're talking
go
about
ahead.
here. Related sort of to Buddhas because they kind of look like Buddhas. I actually have it's an old video, but I have a whole video dedicated to Billikens. Look up Billikens, which are like they look like they kind of look like a Buddha. They have like a fat belly and their feet are always pointed out. They're like a mascot for the jesters, the Royal Order of Jesters. And I actually went to a house once that was owned by someone who was a president of the Royal Order of Jesters, which is sort of secretive society. And so it's hard to get into a house like that. But it was amazing, some of the stuff. So I did a whole video about the Billikens. But also, I saw a question about the Marks Jewelers insert. The question was, what years do they come from? So they come from the 1970s. And they're going to be real easy to spot, by the way, because they're 4-page color inserts. So that's why they didn't make them for every single issue that came out.
So my phone call, just to explain, I gave him Brad's number. Hopefully he will call then. My $300 wicker desk I sold the U-Ship driver is getting to my house here in a few minutes. So he's trying to find my house. Just to explain why I had to go.
On the show. Put him on the show.
Yeah.
No, it's raining and thundering and lightning. They're worried about picking the desk up. Like, it's nasty out there. I don't know how I'm going to get back in the house from the shed. It's not covered.
You can name the dolphin after him if he does a good job.
Boom. That's what it should be. The driver's name.
Whatever his name is. Whatever his name is, that's the dolphin's name.
Deb wants me to name the dolphin Led Zeppelin. I'm going to say you guys can name the dolphin every time. We're just going to have a revolving dolphin name.
Okay.
Are the Nom comics worth any money, Dom?
They can be if you have the whole set of them or if you have them graded. So there's 84 issues in the Nom set. I used to collect the Nom set. My dad served in Vietnam, so I loved reading those kind of books. But right now, if you have the whole set of them, you'd probably be able to get, like on average, you'd probably be able to get around $200 for it. Sometimes you could get more. You might even be able to get up to like maybe $250. Otherwise, you're really looking at you're going to have them sent off and graded for like specific issues to be worth much. Individual raw copy issues for that are not really going to be worth much. They're pretty common. So you'd have to have a complete set of it.
How do you say that? Udalali shop? Udalali? Do you ever sell things on eBay or other sites for local pickup only?
Not on eBay for local pickup only, but I do, and Mrs. Primetime will as well, put things on Facebook Marketplace. It tends to be bigger, bulkier types of items that we will put there, like her furniture pieces that she has restored in the past. So we put some things like that on there, but that tends to be what we put on there. Like recently, actually, if you remember when I went to George would like these. I don't know if you saw, but I'll just get two as an example. I don't know if you saw, George, but I went to a garage sale, and this lady sold me. She was 60 years old, and she sold me these.
Oh, all those glass
A
pieces.
lot of these
Oh,
glass
yeah.
figures that she got from Flemington Cut Glass
Oh,
when she
cool.
was 10 years old. She sold me the entire collection plus the wood case with glass, like a wood glass case that she had. And now the wood glass case needed some fixing up. So like some of the shells were like loose and stuff, and the cover was like loose. So, but that came with it. She's like, you could have everything for $15. Brought it back. Mrs. Primetime, my wife, fixed it up and sold it on Facebook Marketplace. That wasn't something we really wanted to ship, so it was just easy. Put it on furniture where we are. It's like the best selling thing on Facebook Marketplace for us, and that sold less than 24 hours for $50. Lady literally drove 2 hours to pick up that piece, and you know why she bought it? She wanted to display her glass figurines. How cool is that?
Funny. Yeah.
So that's just a recent example.
Oh, that's great. And yes, I agree with you. Honestly, Facebook Marketplace, I use it when I'm doing estate sales. If I have a house with a lot of furniture and I don't think I'll be able to empty it out in a 3-day sale, I will advertise some pieces ahead of time on Facebook Marketplace. It's one of the few times I pre-sell out of my estate sales. I haven't done it on eBay because if they're going to have to come and pick it up locally anyway, then they probably are local. And so I just don't want to pay the percentage to eBay to advertise something that I can sell through another venue locally just as efficiently or more so. The only reason I could see doing it on eBay is if you had something that was really amazing and great and huge and really hard to ship, but still would attract people from long distances, because otherwise, I look at the completed sales on eBay for local pickup things. It's generally furniture, and it's generally 30 or 40% less than you would get for it if you sold it in some other manner, because they have to figure out how to come and get it. It just it cuts down your market. So to me, I haven't tried doing that on eBay. Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, although I have to say a lot of Craigslist people are us reseller people, so they're kind of cheap. And so, that's another option, but I haven't really done it with eBay. I haven't had anything where it made sense. It also depends on what kind of seller you are. The fact that I do estate sales means that, if I have a sale coming up and some other client or somebody has a big thing they need sold and there's space in the estate sale, I have that venue to take it to, and then I can just sell it to someone who walks in the door. So, if I was a person who didn't have that option, then I might think about using eBay maybe for that sort of thing. But again, only if it's something really unusual, because, if it's just your standard chest of 5 drawers in walnut from the 1930s, well, they're everywhere. So why would someone drive any distance to come get it? You might as well just sell it locally.
Yeah, I utilize Facebook Marketplace for big bulky items and stuff. But on eBay, I have a lot of people, again, golf clubs, a lot of golfers around here. They'll actually be like, hey, I live in Myrtle Beach. And then they'll buy it on eBay, but I'll change it to a local pickup. And there's like a little scan thing that you do. You just scan that, boom. But I've had multiple people do that probably in the last month or two. Just say, hey, I don't want to pay shipping. I'm in Myrtle Beach. So I'm like, yeah, just pay. I'll switch it over to local pickup, and they've always showed up, and it's pretty good. But I don't do. It's mostly Facebook Marketplace, big lots of items I want to get rid of, or big like furniture pieces like I picked up today.
Yeah. I had a 3D printer, and I was so happy this guy was an hour and a half away, and he asked if he could come pick it up, because that would have been, it was like 2x2 with tons of moving parts, and he came and picked it up from eBay, but it wasn't listed as local pickup. I wasn't attempting to sell it locally. My furniture is listed. Most of it says local, but then if you read my descriptions, it says freight, like the freight company that's coming to pick up the desk right now. That wicker desk is shipping up to Lima, Ohio. So the buyer paid $300 in shipping for a $300 desk. And what I've kind of learned, and I've probably sold like 6 or 7 furniture pieces on eBay now, the majority being Ethan Allen, is that most of the buyers that are spending $300 on a desk or $800 on a bed, a bed frame that's Ethan Allen, and it surprises me. They buy it and then they ask the shipping. And like the lady with the desk, I'm like, okay, you just paid $293 for the desk and shipping is $300. And she didn't even bat an eye. She paid me in 5 minutes. And if somebody's paying that much for a furniture piece, I guess they're expecting, or if they're buying a lot of furniture from around the country, they're familiar with what the rate is going to be like from Florida to Ohio. I wanted to highlight real quick Christine's comment saying on the West Coast, flat rate shipping is the only way to go as a buyer. Like she can't buy anything from Jocelyn Crazy Lamp Lady because the shipping is so high. And unfortunately for me, that like with so much going to the West Coast, that's why I don't do flat rate, because I can't afford to take a $20 loss on maybe a $30 profit item, you know, and now I'm making $10 instead of 30 because I did a flat rate of 20 when really it's going to cost closer to 40 for me to ship it from Florida to California. So somebody's taking that hit somewhere. Like I know Jocelyn does calculated, I do calculated. And for the buyers that are watching, we're not making money on that. You know, we're not charging extra because, you know, we want to. That's what we're actually paying to ship that item from us to you. And unfortunately, when we're in, it must be great to be a reseller in the middle of the country because, you know, when you're in one corner of the country and it seems like, and I think we talked about it on Misty's show last night, like, it seems like, I feel the reasoning is like what I'm finding here on the East Coast isn't found on the West Coast and vice versa, because I've heard West Coast sellers say the same thing, but their stuff's coming to the East Coast. So I feel like we're finding different items that you can't find on the West Coast versus the East Coast. And it seems like stuff ends up, you know, crossing as far as, George, you travel a lot. Do you find that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we really are just glorified moving people. I mean, that's what we do in a way. It's just getting something from where it was to where it's supposed to go. And it's, yeah, when I'm on the West Coast and doing things, I do for my level 2 members, I do a special extra every month, an extra bonus video, and I do my eBay listings and they drop and they can watch it drop live and they can bid. And when I do them from the West Coast, most of my sales are West Coast or Midwest, because the people on the East Coast, if it's anything heavy, it's just too much. And vice versa, when I'm down in Florida in the winter, I have the same problem you do. It's great if you're going one direction and not so great the other. So that's part of the reason that it's really nice being in Kentucky right now.
Hi, Miss Anita. Thank you for watching. Mark wants to know if everyone uses cash or accrual method.
I use accrual method. That's the most commonly used method. It really helps smooth earnings out over time. So it's maybe not as easy as the cash method, but it's more accurate for your company. So, but everyone's different, is going to use what works best for them. But yeah, that's what I use.
Yeah, I happen to use the cash method, and it's only because I sell a lot on consignment and I have everything coded on my tag. So when I sell something, if it's something I purchased, I know right away looking at the tag how much I paid for it. I put that amount right back into my buying fund. I don't spend it on my bills or anything else, because it's real easy in this business. You start out with the grub stake, you sell a bunch of stuff. Oh gosh, I took all the profit out, and the money came, I spent the money, and oh, now I need new merchandise. Oh, I spent all the money. So for me to keep things straight, I do a cash method. It's just a personal preference. It's not, the other thing is, truthfully, I do not want to have to do physical inventory to keep up with the accounting. And so that's the other reason I use the cash method, is what I sold, it cost this much, there's an amount, and I don't have to go through and do physical inventory every year. It's not better or worse. It's really just personal preference and looking at your own business and what makes sense for how you do it.
Right. I use the cash method.
And I do as well. Same thing as George. I don't want to do inventory. Money in, money out. I actually use neither. I pay my accountant to do it all. I don't do any of it.
Right. Same here.
Jersey Gypsy Corner Store wants to know, what is the one thing you know least about that you would like to learn more about?
I would go back to my answer earlier. I still feel like even though I've learned more about it this year because I've focused on it, I still need to learn more about glass items. So that's my main focus.
I have thought about studying gemology and learning a little bit more about jewelry because I get a lot of it brought to me in appraisals. And if it's a basic fine, I know costume jewelry really well, and I know a certain amount about fine jewelry and comps, but it takes 6 months of training to be able to really analyze a diamond for cut and clarity and brilliance and those sorts of factors. And you can have two stones that to the naked eye look exactly the same, and one's worth 1,000 and one's worth 100. And so I think that would be a great skill that I don't currently possess. So that well, if I can find 6 months to do it, maybe that'll be on the list.
I would say the more I do this, the more I realize I don't know anything. So it would be anything that has to do with anything that's not golf clubs or fishing. Like I literally, the more I go out there and buy stuff, I'm like, I had no idea what this was. So really like glassware, electronics, even some vintage club. I mean, it's just the list goes on and on. So basically everything.
I want to learn more about art. And I mean, it's such a wide thing. I think just like, though, I would like to learn like what's popular right now and try and keep up with that. Cause like I sold my Matador painting last week that was an unknown artist for $300. So if I can do that once, I obviously can do it again, is what I think. I can do it again. So I would like to learn more about art. I feel like I see a lot and it's cheap. Like I paid $11 for that, especially on the estate auctions, and a lot of it goes cheap. And now that I've shipped a couple of big paintings, I'm not as fearful of buying big painting. Dory wants to know, how about old magazines with tobacco or alcohol ads? Is it better or worse to remove the ad? Would it lose its value?
Oh, you mean as opposed to just selling it as the magazine?
I would assume so.
I mean, because people, at least my experience, I don't know, maybe yours is different, but people don't usually people who buy a magazine buy the magazine for the magazine. They're not usually buying it because there's a specific ad in it. When you go to antique shows, I'm sure George sees this all the time, you have booths set up where people literally have rows and rows of ads for sale that have been plucked right out of magazines, and they just put them behind a bag and a board, and they sell really well. So that's what most people do, which is effective because like I have two hanging up right behind me over here, some nice old Pepsi ads. That's all I want. I don't want to buy the whole magazine. I just want the ad. So, pay whatever it is, $5, $10, $15 to get that. And that's what people most commonly do. And you're going to have a buyer base for that. They're going to go after that piece. It's, I don't think it's going to be, that Pepsi ad's not going to really be worth more if it's included in the original magazine and not taken out nicely and put into a bag and board. At least that's been my experience with it.
Yeah, it's definitely true. People will buy the individual ads if that's the reason you're taking them out. The fact that you mentioned tobacco and alcohol specifically makes me wonder if you're thinking that maybe it would be a concern to buyers or to maybe some online platform that you're selling. It's not. So if the issue is I want to take the tobacco and alcohol ads out to sell them, then you just have to look at the magazine and say, is this one of the myriad of very common magazines that are only worth a few dollars anyway? So if I can sell one of the ads, I'm going to get more money. It might be worth more dead than alive. On the other hand, if it's something where the magazine is valuable, then if you take anything out of it, you are decreasing its value. So I guess it depends on how you're approaching that question, and definitely check out your magazines first. Now, granted, there's Julian, Life magazine, Saturday Evening Post, all that sort of thing. But there are certain ones that are valuable for other reasons. Like there's one, I think it was 1963, I want to say it was Life magazine. One issue had a baseball card printed in and perforated in the middle, and I'm not sure why they did it in just that issue. I want to say it's Don Drysdale, but I might be wrong about that. But it's one baseball card. That baseball card got ripped out by every little kid who saw it. So for the few magazines that still have it in there, that magazine's worth $100 because it's almost always missing. So you really want to be careful about what you're taking out and which magazine you're taking it out of.
What they said.
I'm going to go with what they said. Guys, I see a couple of super chats. I am going to grab those. And then Dom and George, I don't know if you watch, we've started doing like a lightning round where we're just going to answer questions fast. The last 10 minutes, we're going to go through as many as we can. So I will grab these super chats first. Nat didn't have a question. I'm going to give Nat a dolphin. Thank you so much.
Super chat.
And then Miss Donatella Bodolino as well. You are very welcome. Donatella does a lot of live auctions on her channel. I have bought some stuff from her to resell. Let me give hers. And then we're going to hit these questions, guys, as fast as I can find.
Super chat.
And if you don't know, just say you don't know because we're going fast. Are Vampirella items worth anything?
Yeah, I put in the chat. Yes, yes, yes. Big, big letters. Definitely look for Vampirella items. It's one of my favorite items to pick up. Absolutely love it, especially if you could find the old Warren magazines with Vampirella on it. They could go for some big money.
Yeah, anything, and vampire anything in general is usually pretty good.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, we're going to say yeah. I'm going on a long road trip. I'm taking lightweight clothes inventory that can ship in poly bags, so keep one-day shipping. Is offering free shipping the easiest?
For me, it is. I'm an advocate of the free shipping model. So for me, I'd say yes, but it's one of those things everyone's going to have a different answer.
I think in your case, Karen, if you're going on a long road trip, yes is the answer, because otherwise your shipping is, how do you even say where you're shipping from for them to calculate? I think you have to.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that too. How can you calculate when you don't know where you're going to be at?
Yeah, if you're moving.
Yeah.
My Ethan Allen furniture is doing good. I'm selling like 1 to 2 pieces per month. The furniture that I sold today was not branded, though. Wicker is in. I will tell you guys, Wicker is in right now. Wicker furniture, Wicker shelves, Wicker decor, Wicker everything is selling. So it is doing okay. I haven't sold enough to go buy more pieces, though. I try to sell like 3 to 4, and then I'll go buy like 5 more. This one is for Dom. Can you list old Fredericks of Hollywood's catalogs on eBay due to the adult category changes?
I wouldn't, because they could look at that and say it goes against their very vague wording. I've done a couple videos recently about the changes with the adult section, and if you don't think it doesn't apply to you because you don't sell items in the adult category, it absolutely can. If you have items listed that show anything that they can interpret as a sexually provocative type of pose, that's very broad. That includes women who are posing in lingerie, for example, like on a Fredericks of Hollywood catalog. You could get dinged on that depending on who's looking at that on eBay. You could take a risk if you want to, but it does technically can go against their policy.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Question for George. I picked up some small cloisonne vases and lidded jars cheap this weekend. How can you tell the age? I know older ones are more desirable.
Well, I'll try to make this a fast answer, but they usually are brass rims at the bottom and the top. Look to see how shiny and bright that is. Look to see the overall surface. If it seems like it has some darkness and oxidation from age, it should. If it seems really shiny, bright, and new, then that's probably newer. Also look at the bottom to look for marks, because sometimes you'll see made in China right on the bottom or that sort of thing, and that makes it pretty clear too. And then I would say if you go to a store that has an old piece, if it's cheap, just buy it, because if you're sure it's old, buy it, take it home, and then you can compare. Sometimes it's better to have an old one, so that you can compare with the other stuff and you'll get a feel for it.
I don't know if you guys answered Stephanie in the chat. Are Saturday Evening Post magazines from the 1950s worth listing?
They can be depending on what the issue is, or if you have a lot of them. There's an old one from the 1940s that has an old Alcohol Anonymous cover. That's pretty desirable, that people like. That one could be pretty valuable. Could even sell for hundreds of dollars just for the one issue. Other times, if you don't have as desirable issues, you could get a lot together of ones from the 1940s. And, if depending on the condition, you could also break $100 or so, depending on how many it is that you have. So they're pretty big and bulky, but they can definitely be worth picking up.
Yeah, they're a little big for shipping, and and a lot of them are very common. But I know out in Washington State, where I'm from originally, there was a guy named, I think it was Floyd Clymer, who did Western drawings on the covers of those, and his stuff sells well out there because he's a known artist out there. So certain cover artists. On the other hand, Norman Rockwell, who great illustrator, did 1 million of their covers. He did 1 million of their covers. So that does not make a premium.
I know, right? Doyle Warehouse, adding extra shipping to the states further away, Calculated does that automatically. So like you don't know who's going to buy it. If it's calculated depending on where you are compared to where they are. I'm looking. Ethan Allen can take a little while, guys. It's not a fast seller. You've got to find that person willing to pay $500 or $1,000 for a piece of furniture, plus paying for the freight. I just want to say hi to Larry Way Out. He bought all of us pizza at the Cincinnati Reseller Rally the first night. Larry, thank you again. Larry is an awesome guy. Thank you so much for being in here. The accrual method is where you're doing inventory. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm looking for questions. I'm going. That is a question for Anthony.
You guys are making me think I need to switch to the cash method.
Do any of you have your own personal prized collections?
I do. My comic books probably not surprise anybody, but of all my comic books, I really love. This isn't going to make sense to a lot of people, but I have a big long run of the Swamp Thing, starting with the first issue. It's a real classic series, and I just have very fond memories of reading that when I was a kid, and so having those is, important to me, and those are prized, and I don't think I'll ever sell those.
I collect some treasure craft and pottery craft because I wrote the book, so I have some of the more obscure items. And I also like Pilgrim Cameo Glass. I've collected coins since I was 6. That's my biggest collection. I like Northwest Art and Floridiana, and then I have some other things too. So yeah, I started as a collector and then came to be a reseller, and I think that's a good place to be because you understand the collector mentality. If it's all just about money all the time, it gets boring.
I'm starting to collect a whole bunch of Penn International reels. They come in all different sizes, and a lot of money can be wrapped up in these reels. So if I get a hand on like an 80 wide, that's a pricey reel, and I'm probably going to keep them all the way down to like the babies.
Good.
Whole collection.
I do not, because I think I have to sell everything, and my husband makes fun of me because of it. But, and I've said this multiple times, if I like stuff, I price it higher so it sits on my shelves longer and I can look at it. So that's my way of having a collection.
Wait, hold on. I'm gonna kick myself for not saying this real quick. I showed it on a recent video. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. A lot of people know this. I showed a recent video. I have the entire collection, every single Doctor Who that was ever made on VHS.
Yeah.
On top of all my books. Did you see that, George? Did you see that? He did. And
that was impressive.
I've been collecting those since I was in the 3rd grade, and I have all the DVDs as well. So
nice.
Yeah.
Finds of yesterday. It's hard to see art. do I go to the previews before the bidding starts? No. And it's so funny you say that because the Matador painting I just sold for the $300 was like 2.5 feet by almost 4 feet. And I thought it was little. And I didn't look at the dimensions. And that, but you know what? I paid $11 for a giant painting and it sold. Mary wants to know, do any of us watch Dr. Lori?
No.
Occasionally, and it's interesting. She has a style, and I do some of the same stuff she does with appraisal fairs, and it's fun to watch how she does it because we do it a little differently.
No.
No.
That doesn't mean
Does
anything
anyone-
bad, by the way. Just no.
Does anyone know about the brand Action Quality Teamwear?
No, I do not.
Mm-mm.
Nope.
I do not either.
There's a question on comic books.
I know. I'm trying to go back. Hold on.
It's actually a very good
There's
question.
one. There's one, Dom.
That's again one of those obscure. That's something obscure where you're gonna have.
You might get slapped.
Right. You'd have to these types of comic books with these types of you're gonna have to find. You'll find someone who's collecting obscure things who will pay you for those types of things, and you get some money out of it. But it's it's not going to be like an Amazing Spider-Man 300, First Venom, that kind of thing. It's not going to ever be at that level.
So this is similar. Like, are you guys in your personal collections, which everybody just talked about? Are you looking on eBay to buy those things?
I was in the past, but not lately. Lately, I've been more purchasing some things on eBay for comic book speculating, is what we call it. In other words, we're buying things now at a lower price because we think something's going to happen related to something in Hollywood, something with a TV show or movie that's going to blow the character up, and then and then that particular comic book because something important happened with it, and just investing in it for the future. But I'm not getting that kind of stuff right now for personal collection.
I don't really buy coins on eBay because it's hard to tell if they've been cleaned or some other thing done to them until you get them, and then you're stuck. So my main collection that I'm adding to right now, no, I don't.
No, I think it would be too expensive to buy them, so I want to find them at like yard sales and stuff where they're super cheap.
I have a few pottery companies that I really like, but again, if I bought them, it wouldn't be for me to collect. It was at a lower cost for me to price it higher and sit it on my shelf and admire it until it's sold. So occasionally. Krause House Sift and Thrift. Do you sell on multiple platforms, and if so, which ones?
I'm on eBay and just the Facebook marketplace that we talked about earlier, sometimes Craigslist.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's about, yep.
Sorry, I should mention I did recently put all my comic books synced over to Hip Comics, just to test that out for 3 months, just to see how things work over there. But so far, the traffic there has been pretty minimal.
Yeah, I sell the same place as Dom does, and I haven't tried other ones because either I didn't think my merchandise was appropriate for it, or it's just, there's only so many hours in the day, honestly.
Yeah.
eBay, Mercari, and Facebook, I've stopped on Poshmark.
I sell on eBay, Mercari, Facebook, and Poshmark. And I do that because I pay my mom to work for me, and that's the easiest thing is for her to cross post. So that's what she does. Anthony wants to know, Dom, what comics are you looking for your own personal collection?
Well, this one right there, Amazing Spider-Man 129. That's not the actual comic book. That's a poster of it. That's the first appearance of the Punisher. That's like a holy grail book, and I would absolutely love to have that. Punisher is one of my favorite characters as well. And same with Amazing Spider-Man, but that book is, it's real expensive to own that book. So yeah, that's the one.
Are sewing patterns worth listing?
I'll let George do this one because
Yes, it depends on the age. When you get back, the older you get, the more valuable they are, all other things being equal. But I've noticed that there's a special, whatever is coming back in vintage clothing and textiles is what's coming back in vintage patterns. So we're starting to sell a lot of 1980s vintage and 70s vintage. But really, there can be pretty high value in some of the ones if you get back to like the 1920s and earlier.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
Best tip when using WorthPoint.
I don't use WorthPoint, so I can't tell you.
I honestly don't use WorthPoint either. It's a great setup, and there's lots of things to like about it, but I have other ways to do the same research, so I haven't done it.
Right.
I don't use it either.
I use it, and I don't know that there's a tip. I use it and kind of look like, for me, I think the biggest thing is if there's none on eBay, I go with the higher pricing on WorthPoint, but you also have to look at the age. Like if it sold for that in 2009, it could be worth 10 times that, or it could be worth nothing. So look at the dates on WorthPoint and just keep that in mind when you're comping, because that could make a big difference. Is Stickley furniture valuable?
Absolutely. Although there is new Stickley furniture as well, and it wasn't cheap either. But Stickley Brothers, if it's got the label, or you can go back to the old catalogs and show it's 1910s, especially if it hasn't been refinished, some of that can be pretty spendy. Now, that arts and crafts and mission style furniture kind of peaked in the marketplace maybe 15 or 20 years ago, which is why all the reproductions came. But it's still up there, and so many people are restoring craftsman houses. It seems like the demand is still good.
Yeah, we're all like, yeah. Renee, let me give you this, and we'll grab a few more questions. Thank you, Renee. I appreciate it. Here.
Super chat.
Somebody asked, can you still list Playboy magazines?
Technically, according to eBay, you could list Playboy magazines if they don't contain any nudity. There were some, Playboy did experiment briefly with publishing magazines that did not have nudity in it, but that's going to be very hard to find. There's not really going to be a market really for that. So most of the stuff, no.
Exactly. The ones with no nudity didn't sell, so that was the end of that.
So those are the ones you can sell, the ones that won't sell. Carl wants to know, for comics, do you replace old boards in plastic bags?
This is such a good question. Absolutely, I do. Yes, because what happens to comic book bags, most of them that you're going to get if you buy a collection, they're going to be yellowed and milky, and they're dirty with tape pieces all over the place, and the boards inside are stained and broken down, have creases in them. Trust me when I tell you, as a collector and as a dealer, collectors don't want to get their comic books that way. And remember what I said earlier? Those bags help hide flaws. So when people get it in the mail the first time, if the bag is nice and clean and new and fresh. Before the show, I just got done bagging and boarding. I have listed Alpha Flight, all 130 issues for $500. Every one of them in a fresh bag and board. So
do you find that there are acid-free boards available? Because I could see where the acid in the cardboard would leach into the comic if it was left there for a long time.
They can. It have to be for a really long time. Generally, most people have very good experience with the BCW bags and boards, which is what I use. Some people will go to an extreme and get what they call Mylar bags, which are more firm but flexible, and they also help protect the comic more from ultraviolet rays, which is another big no-no. What people will sometimes do is they'll take a comic book, one that's real valuable, and they'll display it out and not realize that the sun keeps hitting it and they're fading away and destroying the book. Mylar will help protect that a bit, but they're real expensive. So most people I advise the BCWs.
All right, guys, we're going to get a couple more, and then we will go. We're already a little bit over. Julian, what name should we look out for on golf bags?
Sun Mountain, Ping, Callaway, TaylorMade, basically any big brands. They also make golf bags that are pretty valuable.
George, how do they contact you for an appraisal?
I am just finally got my website together. You can go to theantiquenomad.com and there's information about that there.
George, Anita's apologizing. She thought you were Paul.
I was
So-
like, who's Paul?
George
That's
is
okay.
Paul.
I'll answer to anything, but that's great. I hope they help you.
Karen, I would just watch the bigger channels for the reseller rally, because when they are coming up, people will start talking about them. And so just watch the channels. I heard the next one, I think, is going to be in Florida, which would be lovely for me. What to do about unpaid items. I've noticed really intense buyers complaining about pricing. Yeah. What's your thoughts on that, Dom?
Well, what I was doing, and I'm still doing it because I still think it's effective, before the recent change where they moved over to, if they don't pay in 4 days, then they just automatically cancel it, and then you could relist it. What I do is I'll send an invoice that same day, and if they don't pay by the next day, I send them a message. You go on the app and it has a payment reminder. I send them a payment reminder. I keep the first paragraph, and then the second paragraph, I take it out, and I just say my account is automatically set to report non-paying buyers to eBay after 48 hours. To avoid that, please make payment today. That usually results in getting paid. Very rarely does it go to the full 4 days where someone doesn't pay. It happened once recently on a $10 item, but it happens to me maybe a few times a year. But usually that method helps, I think, get the payment. But it's a big problem, and they need to do more to fix it.
Yeah, they really do. And as far as intense buyers complaining about prices, I think you're right. I try pricing in the middle of sold comps too. If they don't like the price, that's fine. They can make an offer if I allow them to, if it's best offer, or if not, well, if you don't like the price, that's fine. You can keep hunting, and maybe you'll find it cheaper somewhere else.
Yep. I just actually started doing what Don was doing. I do if they don't pay for the first 6, I had 6 to 7 lined up, no payments. I started sending reminders now. I never used to do it, and I started doing it, and actually, I think that actually worked, because I would send them reminders, and half of those people paid. It's like they forgot that they bought something. I was like,
Anita wants to know, who were the comic characters in 1946, man and woman with fish lens faces?
I don't know. I'd have to see a picture of what she's talking about. I'm not sure. But, oh, George, by the way, the BCW bags and boards I was telling you about, those are acid-free, by the way.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Richard's question is going to be the last one, and then we're already 15 minutes over. Richard wants to know, what do you do away from reselling?
Well, the obvious for me would be my full-time job. And then I also run a medical website called medfriendly.com, which is an online medical dictionary. And I have a blog associated with that companies basically pay me to put advertisements on, like articles, like guest articles, because it's linked up to my main website. So that's another thing I do on the side that a lot of people don't realize it takes up a bunch of my time. And it's not reselling related, really. And then for fun stuff, I like to do metal detecting, and I like to spend time with my wife and 2 kids.
I like hiking. I like travel, of course. Sometimes I even travel when I'm not doing antique things. And I enjoy, collecting when I'm not reselling. I'm trying to think what else. Gardening. The other stuff too, but that's and I'm a big soccer fan, so I go to games.
I fish a lot. If I'm not reselling, I'm usually on the water somewhere fishing and traveling someplace to go either buy stuff or fish.
And I love the ocean. I'm obsessed with the ocean. I love the Florida Keys. Dalton, unfortunately, is not big enough yet to where I can go, but probably starting next year or the year after. I used to go to the Keys 3 and 4 times a year, and we would go out deep sea fishing. I'm a fishing person, just like Julian. I love the outdoors, and I love animals. So we go to like parks, like nature parks and the zoo, and I just love the outdoors and the water overall. And I love reselling too, though, so I'm not gonna that's
That's pretty fun.
there's not much outside of reselling, and of course the family time with Dalton is my biggest push for the reselling. So yeah, I'm gonna let everybody say goodbye. I will start with Dom, and we'll just go in a little circle. and close this out. This is the latest I think we've went in a while. So Dom and George, thank you for staying for sure. I appreciate it. And Richard has been dropping links to everybody's channel throughout. So definitely go subscribe to these guys, and I will let Dom take them.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone for coming by. If you haven't stopped by the channel before, I appreciate you coming by, taking a look. I just put up my 900th video the other day, and the 901st video is really a very emotional one that took off. A lot of people watched it, like I said, are in tears by the end of it, and goosebumps and chills. Some people in the chat have already said that. So please go over and check that one out. It's about reselling, but it's also about ethical dilemmas and family, and there's a lot of powerful issues in it. So check it out, and if you like the stuff, please come over and subscribe as we race towards 30,000.
Yay, George.
Well, that is a good video, and yes, you should watch it. It does touch on some things that happen to us sometimes in reselling. Anyhow, I'm working on another video for tomorrow, and I am going to talk about appraisals because it's the first time I've gotten to do an appraisal fair live in a while, is this last weekend. So I'm at the Antique Nomad, and I am happy to have you all come over if you aren't already watching. Well, I do premieres every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and you're welcome to join in the chat.
I just want to thank, as always, thank the two guests. I really appreciate it coming by in the chat. Thank you very much. If you want to check me out, I'm at the Bearded Thrift Machine on Instagram and YouTube.
And I will finally have my video out tomorrow with Kevin, Commonwealth Picker, Matt, Part-Time Picker, OBX, Philly Flipper, all the big guys that I hung out with in Cincinnati. I will have some coverage from those yard sale. I didn't get much because I was busy enjoying my time meeting them and getting to know them. But I will have that out tomorrow with my haul. I'm going to close this out actually with a dolphin from Be Carried Away. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Guys, have a good